Well, how's everybody doing? Nikki's outside enjoying the sunshine. John, looks like you're in your workout room.
I am.
All right. So, let me go back to the PowerPoint. Get this laid out correctly. There we go. So that's not what I want. I'll start over. Send this out of the way. I lost my PowerPoint. I got to open it back up. Give me just a moment, folks. Okay. Here's somebody's TV in the background. Thank you. Okay. So can everybody see the screen? It says providing TS in the well?
Yes.
Okay, good deal.
Yes.
So hopefully it won't take us the 2 hours to go through all this stuff today, but I wanted to make sure we had enough time slated to cover everything, because I know there's been a lot of changes. Heck, there's so many changes. I'm confused myself at times. So we've a couple of things. I just want to give you some context of why there've been so many changes. I apologize for the emails. Sometimes it's got to be maddening for you being on the receiving end, and I want to apologize up front for at times the emails seem overwhelming. You're not just getting them from me and Nikki and other professors, and so that's one thing that I'd like for us to be able to figure out is a different, maybe another method of communicating information to you. Maybe having a central location. I welcome suggestions from you for Nikki and I for the clinic and the the practicum side of the program. If you have suggestions of how we can communicate differently, more effectively with you, to make sure that we know everybody's getting the information, we would welcome your suggestions. A few weeks ago, when this whole COVID-19 epidemic hit, we went into a mode of, okay, how do we continue to provide services to students, the student services to our clients? That's where it all began, because we have an ethical responsibility to not abandon clients. That's a standard ethical responsibility. And so we said, okay, let's move to an online platform. It took several days just to get Zoom to buy the platform that we had to have with Zoom so we could provide secure video conferencing sessions. If you don't know, Zoom, in about 7 days period, Zoom went from 10 million users to 200 million users. Zoom wasn't the only online platform that just exponentially increased in use, but they're the ones that we're using. And so we got that up and rolling. We started working on how do we make everything that we do now in the CUL compliant with HIPAA standards. And so I want to thank Nikki, and I want to thank Lauren. Pat Burnett has come on and is helping us quite a bit. So I want to thank Nikki and Lauren in particular, and Pat has been a lot of support in this as well, to get everything online so we can continue to provide services to our clients. I also want to give those of you who are seeing clients in the well, those of you who are supervising, like Mary Badami, Christy Elliott is providing support. Thank you, Christy. Chase Longacre has been providing support to students. We don't have a lot of Practicum 3 students who can come in and do co-therapy with the Practicum 1 students. In Practicum 1, you're not doing therapy by yourself, because that's, not fair to you to say, okay, good luck, go out and therapize. Now use technology to do it, move through all these other barriers. So Mary and Christy and Chase, I really want to thank you. I hope I'm not leaving somebody out. Nikki, let me know if I am, who's come on and providing co-therapy with the students. And by the way, folks, you can unmute yourself. If you've got a question, please unmute yourself and ask questions. I want this to be a conversation that we're having together. So, been working diligently to just try to get everything in order for us to not only see the clients that we were already working with, but take on new clients. We currently, to get clients seen, we're doing the paperwork online with them in the moment. Marissa Brooks and I did an intake with a young lady the other day. She was didn't have a printer, couldn't print off the intake forms. So we pulled them up and went over them with her, viewing them, sharing the documents online with her. And we filled in all the information on the intake forms and asked, when it came to her signature, do we have your permission to sign in lieu of you? And that's something that we can do in this crisis. It's not going to be a standard of practice, but in a crisis, to get people into treatment in a timely manner, that's something we're able to do. So after we fill out the paperwork, and we're joining with them, we're having a conversation, we're learning a lot, because not only are we hearing their responses, reading their responses, we're filling in their responses. We would load those documents into their case, their client file, to have them as a permanent record. In the meantime, Lauren and Pat are mailing packets. They're mailing the intake packets to the client. The client will fill them out, put their signature on the form, mail it back to us, and at that time we upload into their file the document with their signature on it. So just give you a little bit of context in how we're doing that. So we don't know how long this necessity to provide online services will be. Here, April 30th, things will start to relax and go back to normal. Depending on who you're listening to will depend on what you're hearing. We just don't know. We don't know how long the Commission on Accreditation for Marriage and Family Therapy Education, the commission that has oversight over our program for us to maintain that standard, we don't know how long they're going to allow us to provide online therapy. But we want to make sure that what we're doing, as long as we're doing it, is to the standards that it needs to be. So there are some prerequisites to seeing clients online. And one of those prerequisites is you have to complete and submit the MFT policy and procedures manual receipt and acknowledgement. So I'm going to click on that link and go to it. If for some reason you don't have a copy of the Marriage and Family Therapy CU Well Counseling Center policy and procedure manual, let Nikki or I know, or Lauren, and we will send you a link to that. It's been updated. It's something that we're having to update quite often right now. But as you can see in yellow, the COVID-19 addendums to the policy and procedures are included in this manual at the end of the document. Back to prerequisites. To work in the well, to be able to see clients in the well, that's online or when we get back into the center, you have to complete and sign and submit this document, the receipt and acknowledgement that you've received the manual and you've read through the policies. This simply attests to the fact that during the, not only have you read the manual, you understand, you're going to follow the guides and the rules in the manual for seeing clients, that you also are saying, hey, I agreed, I'm going to do this. One of the I'm not going to read through all this, but it explains coamptive version 12 requirements are observable data, where we were asking folks to come into the center and observe live sessions. We've backed away from that because we just, in this last term when we were making that available, couple nights we had pretty good turnouts, but most nights people weren't showing up. So it was an extra burden apparently on folks to come and try to get these 50 observable hours that you could count toward your 500 hours of client contact that you have to have. And so we've done away with that. At some point, we hope to make observable hours available again. But for right now, we've taken that off of the requirements. We are, in lieu of that observable time, we're requiring that when people enter the program, starting in, if you entered the program as of January 2020, you will participate in group supervision meetings. These take place one day a week for 1 hour each week during the whole term. So during the 8-week term, you'll have 8 meetings. Even if you're not in practicum yet, we're requiring you to participate in the group supervision time. It does not, you don't have to pay for it. You're not paid for that. You don't have to sign, officially sign up for it, but you have to sign up for the group that you want to participate in. The reason we're doing that is we want students from the time they enter the program to start becoming comfortable with, listening to people talk about their cases. Each week in group supervision, a different intern will present a client that they're working with. And ideally, they'll have a video recording that they'll share from the session. They'll explain it's called case consultation. They'll staff the case, tell you what's going on, what treatment and modality they're working with this client, maybe what the treatment plan is. And then we watch their work. And it helps us all learn from that therapist, as well as that therapist is getting feedback from the rest of the interns and the supervisor. So those who are not in practicum yet, you're still in pre-practicum, you'll join one of these groups. And you have to attend each week, even though you're not presenting. But you're starting to learn about what does therapy look like. You're learning from the other students. So to be able to work in the well, to be assigned clients, you have to sign this, submit it to Nikki or myself. We'll put it in the file.
Tony,
And then, yeah, go ahead.
how long are those supervisions usually each week?
1 hour.
Do they count towards the 500 like the 50 would have?
No, nope.
And how many do we have to attend?
When you enter the program, you have to attend those every week until you finish the program. When you're in practicum, that's part of your practicum supervision requirements. And as a pre-practicum student, you do not have to do individual supervision. But once you start practicum and you're seeing clients, you'll have an hour of group supervision each week, and you have an hour of individual supervision each week. So you're getting 2 hours of supervision around the work that you're doing with clients.
Okay.
Maybe,
Tony,
Raina, were you asking about if there are any absences allowed?
Well, I was just trying to understand if there was, before in comparison, there were 50 hours. How many hours does that equate to on the group supervision side is what I was looking for, but I'm not sure I understand if that number exists.
Yeah, attending the group supervision and pre-practicum, it doesn't count toward any part of your practicum. It doesn't count toward supervision, and it doesn't count toward client contact hours, whereas the observation hours were.
Okay.
But with with us doing video sessions now, we can't do observation either.
Tony, are these groups a requirement for those of us who have already started practicum, in addition to our weekly group supervision and our supervision with our supervisor?
This
No.
is group supervision. It's
Yeah.
now we're including pre-practicum students to observe it.
Okay, so it's if you're in practicum, it's what we're already doing.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Sorry. I just want to make sure I was clear.
Yeah. And we're including this for pre-practicum students because it's part of just the preparation. We want you to listen to the language. We want you to see, therapy being done. And so it's acculturating you to begin practicum when the time is right. Good question, Raina. So I'm just going to walk through the handbook. I'm not going to stop at everything, but there have been some changes that you may notice if you've looked at the handbook very intently in the past. Notice attendance and group supervision is required to assist in orienting the student to clinical practice and the program. Let me switch the view of this. It will be wobbly cob. right now we have an exception from coamptive that we can do individual supervision online because of the no contact. I'm can't be certain, but I'm pretty confident that they're going to allow any individual supervision that we're doing online to count as if it were face to face, because one of the standards of supervision is that we have to have one more hour of face to face supervision than we have online supervision. So that's why our individual supervision has traditionally been, in the same room face to face because of the standard that coactive has. So that's not really something that we can do anything about, but I feel pretty confident that they're going to let the individual online supervision count as face to face at this time. So we've also made a change for practicum 1 and 2. We had hoped that we would pretty quickly build up enough clientele in the CUL that all of our practicum 1 and practicum 2 students could get all the hours that they need just through the well. And we've, as much as we promoted it and pushed it out and had meetings with people across Louisville, our caseload just hasn't built to what we need it to be at this point. So we've backed up and we said, okay, we want students when they enter practicum 1 to do the first 100 hours in the well, and then they could transition and take on a second practicum site. Nikki has a long-standing relationship with some good sites that we will approve. We're looking for additional sites that we can feel like we have really good relationship and the students will have a sense of continuity and connection with those approved sites. That's something that we're going to be working on. Even now we're working on that. So we're going to allow students more quickly. Originally we were saying you have to do your first 400 hours in the well, then you could do your last 100 hours at an external site. Now we're going to say, okay, here's our approved sites that once you have 100 hours in the well, then you can go to this additional site. We still want you to see clients in the well, but here's an additional site you can go get hours at. We want to make sure that folks who are in the 2-year track are able to get their 500 hours in that 12-month period. One of the things that we're working on right now is connecting with the Department of Education and some other organizations to talk about, contracting with them to do online counseling like in school systems. There are school systems across the state that they just can't afford to bring therapists on board. But if we have practicum students who can say, okay, I can spend 8 hours or 6 hours on Tuesday providing online counseling to East Franklin Elementary School or East Franklin High School in Western Kentucky, and I can do that online, assuming that we're going to be allowed to continue to do online counseling when the virus scare is over. I think that'd be a great opportunity, a great way for our interns to exercise their skills and just become more competent in doing online counseling. Practicum 2 students already are able to work on their own in the well, but practicum 2 students because they will have already had more than 100 hours. They may be doing some counseling in an external site as well. Nikki, if there's anything I'm leaving out, please jump in and add to that. I'm not going to read the things that are standard in here. You can look through these documents yourself. I'm going to jump on down to fees. Let me touch on fees for a moment. During this crisis, we have communicated to our clients that if paying for services is a hardship for you, we'll provide services at no cost. We are not taking payments from clients. We're online. We don't have a way to take payment from clients. But the way we're managing this, Lauren has sent an email letter that I drafted to all the clients, letting them know that during this crisis, we will provide services at no charge if the client needs that. We're happy to do so. We're going to invoice clients at the end of the month, or actually at the beginning of the next month. We will send an invoice to them, and they can simply, it'll say, I can't afford to pay for services for this month, or they're directed to call the office and they'll speak with Lauren, and Lauren has a secure way to take credit card payment, or she can take an online check. So somebody put something in the chat. I want to check that out. I don't want to ignore that.
So Tony, I have that my client now does have a card and needs to pay that way. So you're telling me I just need to let her contact Lauren, and Lauren will take care of that payment.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And Lauren probably has already pushed that email out. If not, she'll do it on Monday. But if your clients ask, hey, how do I take care of payment? Just say, we're going to be invoicing on a monthly basis. And if you're able to pay, you'll call the office and you give your credit card or pay by check over secure payment source.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. We are developing a supervisor team for all the supervision that we do in the well, and even your extern supervision will be done through them. I'll name them for you: John Wood, John Nersweek, Randall Smith, Mary Badami, Angie Arball, and Heather Brooks are the 6 supervisors. They'll be starting next term, providing the individual supervision. Individual supervision will be done in dyads. That means there's 2 of you who will meet with that supervisor during the same hour. You learn from one another. You'll share video. You'll share where you stuck. You'll celebrate. It's a good way to do supervision. It's my preferred way to do individual supervision is with dyads, because you can learn from one another. There may be a week that one of the supervisees needs the majority of the time, but the supervisor will help you keep that balance. And so Nikki and I meet with the supervisor team on Monday, and Nikki will let you know their availability for individual supervision for those of you who are in practicum. Let me scroll down to the addendums. Okay. So this is
Am I the only one? I think your screen is frozen.
it's frozen. Okay, let me stop sharing and see if I can reconnect. Thank you for letting me know. What about now? Do you see the COVID-19 addendums?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you for letting me know. So in this section, I start out with the documents and guides for the clients. I think it's good for you to know what information they're being sent. There's links to these if you need to. The reason I put links in here is because if something changes, you know, we'll have to change this document. Right now, we're using Send Ink for secure email. Lauren is working with, I think Nikki recommended Hushmail. And Lauren started looking at it. She found out there's a lot more we can do with Hushmail. And so she's working on making that changeover, and we'll change the information here. But essentially, clients are contacted through a secure email, and they set up their own account. It's free. Ours is paid. But what the secure email does is it encrypts the communication at both ends. So it keeps the protected health information, PHI, private. And so this is just a walkthrough guide telling them how that process works, hopefully helping them not feel overwhelmed about technology. So they'll set up a secure email process with us. All the information we send to them has to go through secure email for us to be HIPAA compliant. And that is very important. If you have something that you want pushed to the client, you need to get that to Lauren and let Lauren email that through the secure email. With Hushmail, there may be an account that students have access to. We'll figure that out hopefully this week, and we'll let you know. Other documents, this is a document of how to connect with Zoom. We had some hiccups with Zoom meetings the first week. I think we've got those all corrected now. I haven't heard anybody this past week with any hiccups, but bottom line, the client has to create an account because for the encryption to work, it has to be encrypted at the sender's end and the receiver's end. So they have to have an account. And so that's what this document does. Helps them walk step by step through how to create their Zoom account so they can log into their Zoom meeting with the therapist. The third document for clients is it's just an information document. What do I need to know about technology-assisted counseling? This is information for the person considering online counseling in the well. So this is sent out. Somebody calls Lauren, hey, I'm interested in doing online counseling. This is the first document she's going to send them. I want to give you some information about what to expect. One client that had scheduled, I think, an intake, she emailed back through Send Ink and said, you know, we've decided we're going to hold off. We're not going to do this at this time. And some clients, they're, you know, I think it's we're meeting them where they are. If they're ready to do online counseling, great. If they're not, that's fine too. Let's see, somebody who is on the call, Aaron. Aaron and I have done some co-therapy together with a couple. Aaron, will you share kind of your impression of what it's been like to do online counseling?
Yeah,
For one thing, it's definitely different than being in a room with somebody. But also too, it's a very humbling experience because, like you said, we get to meet them where they are, meet them at their most maybe one of their most comfortable places to be. So it's weird, but it's also a very cool opportunity as well.
Okay, thank you. Somebody else who's been doing some online counseling in the well, share your experience briefly.
I've had 2 sessions, and it's been, I'm going to be honest, I don't like it as much as in person, because to me it is a hindrance, and I miss the atmosphere in the room and being able to feel that and work with that. And so maybe, I don't know if that's my inexperience with online or not, but as far as therapeutic rapport and being able to just kind of come into her house and, you know, be present with her, it feels like maybe it's a little bit more comfortable for the client, just not the therapist. I would rather be in the therapy room maybe, but it looks like that maybe it is a safer, more comfortable place for her. She doesn't have to travel. She doesn't have to come to a different building. It's not sterile necessarily. So that maybe makes it a little easier for my client.
Yeah. And your client's in her mid-60s and she's at the more vulnerable, population.
Right.
So, John, you were going to say something.
Yeah, Tony, I've done 2 as well with the distance stuff. And I have to agree that it is not as comfortable, not as easy, but, we also don't want to leave our, people without support during any time, but especially right now. So I think it's worth doing what we're doing to do that, even when the engagement part of the process or the joining can be more difficult.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I just, appreciate y'all's, your honest appraisal of it. I believe if we had this conversation, 2 months or 6 months from now, and you were doing more and more online counseling, I think your comfort level and naturally, developmentally, where you are, you're being asked to learn a new skill. John and Sabrina and Aaron are all practicum 2 level students. They've got quite a bit of counseling experience. But, I think the more you do it, the less the computer becomes a barrier for you. I'm going to share with y'all in a few minutes, just a few toward the end, just a brief snippet of a session that Scott Hughes and I had with a couple recently. And I think that'll give you a different perspective of what online therapy can look like. And so through this document that we send out to the clients, welcome to the CUL Counseling Center, we talk about privacy, how do I do the paperwork, who will I work with, what if I don't feel comfortable with my therapist, it doesn't feel like a good fit. We always want people to know that there are other therapists you can work with. We'll make referrals to you to outside counseling centers if we need to. How long does therapy last? What can I expect if I decide I want counseling? We're walking them through the processes, what that looks like. How much does it cost? Services will be provided at no cost if you're not able to pay. How can I pay for my counseling? We put that process in there, and we want them to know that we will never call them to discuss payment. We don't want any of our clients to be a victim of, a scam. I don't know if y'all saw it. I was appalled this morning. I saw where people around the country are setting up these makeshift COVID testing centers, putting tents up, these white tents, and they're in these sterile outfits and charging people to get tested, and there are no tests. or they're out selling home testing kits. The world is, there's some really messed up folks, aren't there? We talk about the meetings as soon as we're able to start our 3 meetings a day. That's part of, why we're having this meeting today. We explain, what those groups look like. Here's a document checklist that we use on our end. We provide to clients. The next set of documents are for interns, for you guys. You've seen this. I pushed this out a couple, probably 10 days ago. There's been probably some revisions to it. Here, number 2, we tell you what we tell clients who contact us by phone. Anyway, this is definitely the section that y'all need to be very familiar with, are the guides for doing online services in the well. Again, logging into Theranest, opening up your Theranest page. It's in that client's appointment is where you will go to find the Zoom meeting. You have to schedule, the intake appointment is scheduled for you by one of the schedulers. They'll look at your availability, and if you're available to see a client on Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and that client, the new intake client, says, I want to be seen, like Tuesday at 5 would work for me, you're assigned to that client. If you have to have a co-therapist, they're assigned to the client with you, and that appointment's put into the Theranest calendar. The scheduler will go to Zoom, schedule a Zoom room and meeting for you. They'll put the invitation in this section here in the notes section. They're not going to email you because you're getting so many emails. Might be hard for you to find the email with the Zoom invitation. So just go to the appointment on that day, and in the notes section, you'll find the URL for your Zoom meeting that day. Copy it, paste it into a browser, and go there. There will be a password that's in the notes section as well, and you'll need that password to access the meeting. That's one of the doors that we have to have people go through to protect privacy. If you don't enter the next session, the intake session is the only session that schedulers are going to schedule for you. You have to put into the calendar, Theranest calendar, your next appointment, or guess what? You're not going to have a Zoom meeting scheduled for you. You need to put it in at the moment that you're scheduling with the client, because the schedulers, if they come up on Tuesday and you don't enter your meeting until Tuesday, they may miss it because they're expecting appointments to be in the calendar at least 3 days before the appointed time for that meeting. So you may come up at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, you just put the appointment in there Tuesday morning. Guess what? You don't have a place to meet. It's not on the scheduler, that's on you. If a client calls you and says, hey, something's happened, can we meet this afternoon? Do you have time? You need to email Lauren or Pat or both of them and say, I just entered a kind of an emergency appointment this afternoon. Please schedule a Zoom meeting for me. And they'll go in, they'll schedule that for you, and they'll send the client a secure email with the invitation. You'll find the invitation for the Zoom meeting in the notes section. Due to the requirement to use only secure messaging, we want to make sure all emails provided, Zoom meeting invitations, are managed by the scheduler. The therapist you don't have to manage scheduling those meetings or contacting your client about how to log into those meetings. Move on down. Cancellations. You need to let the client know that if they need to cancel an appointment, to call the office. If Lauren's not able to answer or she's not working, they can leave a message. She'll contact them back. This is a very important aspect. We do not want you giving out your personal cell phone number to clients. It's really a boundaries issue, okay? This is a layer of protection for all of you. But here's a link where you can go and you can get a free Google number. It doesn't have to be a HIPAA secure number. Just a Google number will be sufficient. It will ring into your cell phone, but you'll know that it's coming from your Google number. And they can leave you a message. They can send a text message to you. The only thing is that, you need to let your clients know the only time I answer my phone when it's coming from a Google call is when I'm in session. And if our connection between us drops, this is the number. You call my Google number to let me know that you're okay, and we're going to reconnect. Don't call my Google number in between sessions. If you need to communicate with me, contact the office, and the office will communicate with me whatever it is you need to let me know. Now, if you've already given out your cell phone number to some clients, I understand that. You're not going to, there's no repercussions for you to do that. But just moving forward, get a Google number and use that Google number to share with your clients, because your clients, by law, Kentucky law, your clients have to have a way to contact you during the session in case the meeting drops off. Here are two links. Sabrina provided this step-by-step instructions. If you have a Mac, how to record to your Mac. We cannot record to the cloud. There's not a HIPAA compliant way to do that. That was a lesson I learned. I was having the sessions recorded to Zoom Cloud, and then I was sending the links out to you. We can't do that and be HIPAA compliant. So you're going to have to record to your own computer. I gave you a link to an article, and I gave you Sabrina's step-by-step directions. And then if you are a Windows user, here's a couple of links to how you can record to your Windows 10 device. Make sure you're recording to your SD card. Buy an SD card. They're relatively cheap. A 64 gigabyte card will hold as many sessions probably as you need it to. Make sure you password protect it. The instructions are in there here under number 7. How to password protect an SD card for Windows and password protect SD card for Mac. So all of these steps are in there. Make sure that you're following these. You have to be responsible. I can't come to your house. I'm not going to inspect your SD cards and make sure they're password protected. That responsibility is on you. And these guides should be all you need to be able to do what is required to make sure that you're meeting the standards for HIPAA encryption and protection. Again, if you don't schedule an appointment in Theranos for your next meeting, your next Zoom meeting cannot be scheduled. The next document and guide is setting up your Theranos account and submitting availability to receive intakes. This is an absolute have-to step. When you have an account in Theranest, you have to go to open up your Theranest account, click on your name up the top right-hand side. There's step-by-step guides to do this. Click on calendar preferences, and you want to open up your calendar Monday through Friday, or Monday through, Saturday. Unless you know that you're never going to see clients on Saturday, then you can just keep Saturday completely closed. But if you don't set your calendar preferences to be open to all the hours that were open in the well, and if you're going to see groups on Sunday or you're going to see groups on Wednesday night, you have to open up your availability on Sunday and Wednesday night so we can schedule you. We are no longer scheduling you for clients. As long as we're doing online counseling, we're not using your Theranest preferences. But you have to open up your availability, because if, let's say Sabrina says that she's going to see a client, or she'll work with a group Sunday night, 8 o'clock group. If her Theranest calendar does not show that she's available on Sunday night at 8 o'clock, we cannot schedule her to work with that group. The Theranest calendar is preventing us from doing that. So you say, Tony, how do you know, how are you going to schedule my availability? If Theranest shows I'm available all the time, doesn't that mean you'll schedule me anytime? No. We are using an old school method. We're sending you a weekly schedule, Sunday through Saturday, the hours of between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. And you'll put an X in the hours that you're available. You may be available on Monday morning from 10 to 12, and then Monday night from 6 to 8. So you'll put those available times. In Theranest, we couldn't do that. You had to just do one block of availability. So it was a barrier for many people who said, there's a couple different times during the day I may be available. Then in the bottom section, let me just pull this up and we'll take a look at it. This is the document that you need to enter your availability. I closed Sunday because we're not scheduling clients for sessions on Sunday. But down here in the groups, we're scheduling groups 7 days a week, 3 times a day. So if you say, hey, I want to work the 8 o'clock group on Sunday night, just identify that. This, you're giving us your availability on a weekly basis for the whole term. So what do we have? 3 weeks left in this term. If you've not submitted this back to us yet, fill it out, send it back. Pat is doing a beautiful job putting this in a spreadsheet so we can schedule according to your availability. But remember, you're saying this is my availability for the term. Coming up a week before G6 starts, you're going to do another one of these for the G6 term, because your classes change, life situations may change. And so it's vitally important that you do 2 things. You open your account availability preferences in Theranest to always open, and you complete this and send it in to Pat. The instructions are on here for a step-by-step process of how you do that. Now I lost my PowerPoint. There we go. No, handbook. Any questions up to this point? I know we're going through this pretty quickly, but if you have any questions, let me know as we go along, okay?
Tony, I have a quick question.
Sure.
How long are the group sessions lasting?
They're 50 minutes.
Okay.
And we can have, if 5 interns want to help co-lead a group, that's fine. All of you will get credit for that hour of group client contact time. What I will do is ask, and I may have to assign this, or Nikki may have to assign this, is somebody's got to be the leader of that group. Somebody's got to kind of say, okay, here's how we're going to structure that this week. We're not doing like substance use disorder groups. We're not doing depression groups. We're not doing trauma groups. We're doing general support groups. But you have to have some structure. You want to go into the group knowing, okay, tonight, kind of to get people talking, we're going to open up with the question, what has been the most stressful experience that you've had since the whole COVID-19 began? So you give that question, and you can use breakout groups in your Zoom rooms. You can say, okay, we've got 20 people on here tonight. I'd like to hear from all 20 of you. Put it in chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, there's opportunities to change up how you lead those groups. If you have people put into the breakout rooms, guess what? You need to go to Zoom and learn that technology. But somebody's got to kind of take the lead. Otherwise, you're going to have 2 or 3 or 5 therapists sitting around kind of, what do we do? What's next? So when, as people start signing up and saying, I'll do this group, or I'll lead these groups, I'm going to develop a training video to walk you through all the processes that you'll need to know. But again, somebody's got to be the lead for each group. In the beginning, I know that I'm going to do everything I can to be present with those groups to help you out. Nikki, when she's available, or other lead therapists who are able and available can jump in and kind of help guide y'all through those processes.
Tony, I know in the beginning you had talked about we would do some practice groups with just like us. Will we still do that?
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
In fact, that's what we'll record is that one of those practice groups.
Okay.
So each term you're making a commitment. This is my availability for the next 8 weeks. If, let's say May the 15th is, I've said I'll be available on Fridays, but on May 15th, let's say that's a Friday, I know I can't be here for that day. On that day, you need, way ahead of time, you need to let Lauren and Pat know, I'm not going to be available on that Friday. Even though I'm showing my availability this term for Fridays, I just can't be here that day. Life happens, folks. But make sure that you're managing your life in a way. This is like a job. When you're doing practicum, if you're at an external site or in the well, you have a responsibility to that agency. The well is, in essence, an agency. We're running a counseling center. And we started this counseling center for your benefit, to give you a better clinical experience, to give you more closely supervised experience. I believe that we're going to get to the place where, whether we're doing online or in person, where we're going to be very, very busy in the well. But you got to take your responsibility seriously. the way that we're balancing, you may be saying, how do I know I'm going to get clients? Well, Lauren and Pat I think it was Lauren, put together a spreadsheet of everybody who works in the well, and she's tracking how many clients you have active. And if you're Scott Hughes and you got 3 active clients right now, guess what? You're not going to get any more intakes until everybody else, all the other interns, have 3 active clients. And so you're on this list of who's next, who gets the next intake client. And so we're doing our best to make sure it's balanced, that it's equitable to everybody. And if you haven't received a client yet, it's probably due to the fact that you haven't completed, in fairness, you haven't opened up your availability to show always available, and or you haven't sent in this calendar, and we see your availability there.
Tony, I have a question.
Sure.
Can we get, like, if someone asks for us, can we ask for or get referrals, I guess is the question I'm asking. If we know people, or if we tell them to go through here, or do we need to work that up with a different practicum site?
No. If somebody calls the well and says, I'd like to work with Sabrina Allen, then you're going to get that intake.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, one thing I don't want, folks, I don't want y'all taking out ads in the Louisville newspaper or put things on Facebook. Hey, come see me at CUL. First of all, that's unethical. That's called solicitation, and we don't want to be ticketed for solicitation, right? But if a client that you're working with, says, hey, I'm seeing somebody at the well, and Sabrina's really awesome, and you're getting a personal referral, you deserve to see that client, okay? But we're not gonna take ads out and market ourselves that way.
I'd like to add something. Right now, you may have the most availability that you could ever possibly have. And I had supervision with one of my folks the other day, and she said, well, I'm basically available just about all the time. And so I said, look, when you fill this thing out, put anytime you could possibly see somebody, because clients come and go, people get sick, and so the more availability you give, the more likely you are to get clients. And don't worry about being overscheduled. I mean, that's something that you're going to have to regulate, but we're going to try to do a fair distribution. So unless you just get overloaded, you really need to make yourself available. And times of the year also affect client intake and attendance. Every year, Christmas time, you're going to see a big dip. And then in the summer, when people are taking vacations, you're going to see a big dip. So, take into account that if I say I can see, 8 clients a week, I'm probably not going to get 8 clients a week, 8 hours, because something will happen to something. I'll have a conflict, whatever. So do open yourself up to as much time as you possibly can.
Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you. So we do have a mechanism in place. If you'll notice here, when an intern has 12 active cases, excuse me, they will not receive any more intake appointments until their caseload drops below 10 active cases. And so we don't want you to have, more work than what you can really manage. And so you're up to 12 active cases. We're going to take you off the intake list. Raina, you got a question?
Yes. So as you said, with all of the people in the program, we are all needing the same thing, and you are distributing as equally as you can to everyone. That 100-hour requirement at CU Well, how long are we looking to be able to get that accomplished if we're not able to get those hours to get to that other practicum site?
Well, our goal is within 2 to 3 months after you start practicum 1 for you to have those 100 hours. Again, a lot of that's dependent, but that's really, Raina, no different than before we had the CU Well. Nikki, I'll let you speak to this, because you've been the practicum director for a long time. How quickly do people get cases, start building a caseload at external sites?
It all depends on the site. What you're going to find is you may have one site that may only refer 1 or 2 clients to you, and that's all they can spare. And maybe there's a private practice and they want somebody to pick up some of their clients that are low fee or no fee. You may have a residential program where everybody who says they want counseling will be there and they won't miss because they live there. And then there have also, I've had folks placed in like JCPS, or like I had somebody at the Brook, and they were, as a part of their job, were able to, to really rack up the hours. So it spans the gamut. That's why when I was sharing with new practicum students, you probably will have to get a second placement, because unless it's an unusual situation like a residential treatment program or an on-the-job placement, you probably aren't going to be able to get your 500 hours in one place. So that's, that's kind of how that works. It really depends on the site.
Okay, yeah, I understood that outside of CU Well, that kind of is an ebb and flow and however much they have available. But what I'm understanding is until I get that 100 hours at CU Well, I can't go to that practicum site outside. And so I'm asking, if we have so much between us, we're all trying to get those hours at CU Well to get past practicum 1. How is that going to be possible for us to get to practicum 2, since we don't even have a whole lot there to spare between us in practicum 1 at CU Well only?
Well, Raina, we're continually Nikki and I both, and Dr. Hollis, we're always working with different entities to increase our referrals. Again, if somebody comes, like Lindsay's on the call today. Lindsay came and said, "Hey, I've got an opportunity to work in a counseling center, and I'm gonna work in the well too, and because she's under supervision. If you have an opportunity, if you're offered an opportunity to do an external placement, come talk to me about that."
Okay.
But
Kind of under the same ebb and flow of the community at large. So, and when you start a new practice, there is a building time. The first 2 semesters when I came through the program, I probably had 4 hours in 2 semesters, just because it was a new place and we had to build from there. But once they started coming, they came.
Yeah. There, and I'll just speak to this. Christy, were you able to get your 500 hours in the 1 year, or did you have to do a 699 extension? You're muted, so you have to mute. So
I had to do an extension. I kind of started practicum later than they start now. So that was partly the issue. I think the program you got now is so much better with getting people used to it and stuff. But yeah, I started kind of really slow. I was under the old program, so I was able to graduate with over 300. So I had to do an extent 2 months after graduation to get my 500.
Yeah. And those extensions, by the way, are, I believe, at no cost. Isn't that right, Nikki? The 699s?
You still have to pay for supervision because you're
Yeah.
going to be under the same expectations of the credit practicum. It's just got the name graduate candidacy that kind of predated any of us. So it's 0 credit, 0 tuition, but you still have to pay your individual supervisor.
And I think with all the stuff going on right now, Tony, at least pandemic, I feel like everything keeps shifting. So especially for me, because I think I'm maybe the older one in the program on the link, but because it's like the CUL was starting to move and that was going along, and then the pandemic happened, and now we're in this spot. And I had initially a residential like in-house facility, but I can't be in there now. And so now once we get used to this, it's going to shift again. So I feel like we're in training and school and all this and just a very difficult time. So I've had to just really tell myself, because I am seeing my hours not grow very, very slowly, but I've just had to tell myself, like, it's going to be okay. I don't know what this is going to look like come December. But if I have to do the extensions, I have to do the extensions. If it's, May next year, I just really don't know, but it's outside of my control. So
this is something that we have experienced, those of us who are in private practice and also associates that we supervise, is, you've got everybody out there's taken a major hit in their clientele. I've got a lady that I see in assisted living, and I even had arranged for staff to, bring up the Zoom, and she just didn't want to do it. So, so there's one, but many have lost their jobs as well and can't afford therapy out in the field, and then others are just saying, you know what, I'm just going to wait until I can see you in person. So everybody out there's taking a hit.
Yeah. And in this, we're not really talking to your question anymore, Raina, but I just want to share this with y'all. I've been on several phone calls over the last 3 weeks with other coactive programs across the country, literally from not every state, but multiple states. We currently, as far as I know, of all the coactive programs I've talked to, we're the only program whose students are still getting clinical hours because we're able to do online counseling. University of Kentucky, I consult with these programs, share with them what we're doing. And, U of L, Presbyterian, UK, programs in California, New York, everywhere, their students have just been told, we're shutting down. We cannot do counseling. Some are doing phone call counseling, but I think we're pretty fortunate to be in the place we are. And again, we don't know when this is going to be over, if we ever have to stop doing online counseling. But I think there's going to be, and I wouldn't say this if I didn't mean it, I believe we're going to see a lot of opportunities for our students to be able to do online counseling moving forward, like with school systems that we just didn't have before, as long as Coactive allows us to continue to provide online counseling. And I don't see any reason for them not to, but again, I can't speak for them. Well, let's move on. Good questions, good conversation.
I've got one more thing to say, and I think that students, what Tony's saying about us being ahead of the curve, we've got Tony and Dr. Bertram to thank for that, because they were ahead of the game already doing this kind of work and training in this kind of work. We are so fortunate to have their experience and expertise so that we can move forward with this.
Yeah, you know, for me, all the glory goes to God. I feel like, you know, in hindsight, you see where God's been preparing you for something. And, yeah, fortunately, Dr. Bertram and I have been doing this for quite a long time and teaching on it. And whether you're on the call here today or you're going to watch the recording, one of the prerequisites to doing online counseling is that you've attended the 15-hour certificate course that Dr. Bertram and I teach. If you've not attended that yet, we teach that every month. We taught it to the Alabama Marriage and Family Therapy Association this weekend. We did that at no cost for that professional association because it happens to be where I live. Dr. Bertram lived here at one time, was still licensed here, and we just trying to give back to the profession. So every month, at least once a month, you'll have the opportunity, if you haven't done this training yet, to be able to do the training at no cost. And it is a requirement of the licensure board that once you become an associate or licensed marriage and family therapist, you cannot do any online counseling, any technology assisted services without a 15-hour certificate course. And so by getting this free as a student, you're really ahead of the curve. Every student in all 4 coamputative programs in the state of Kentucky have taken the course for free now. And so that's going to give a great advantage to MFTs coming up in the field in the state of Kentucky. So other documents, here's kind of what to expect in your first session, you know, as student interns. Make sure that you have a Zoom meeting room scheduled, 1, 2, or 3. Zoom room 4 is our group room. If we get to where we need more than 3 Zoom rooms in an hour, I'll just get more licenses. But right now, we're not scheduling more than 3 sessions per hour. How do I know if my internet connection is fast enough? This is something I want you to do sooner than later. Here's a way to test your speed. You can do a speed performance test on your internet connection. There's some articles here that explain the difference in megabytes versus megabits. What is the minimal speed connection that you need in your home so you're not, you know, buffering all the time. You can also share those speed connection links with your clients. If they keep buffering, if they keep saying, man, you're freezing up, and you know it's not you, you can say, hey, why don't you, let's take a minute and go to this link and see what your upload and download speed is. Kind of a rule of thumb is if your internet connection will run 3 streaming devices, let's say you're watching Netflix and your partner's watching Hulu and your kid's playing a video game, and none of you are having any glitches, then you have adequate connection to do online therapy. I'm not going to read through this, but this is just information. You do in your assessment, you're assessing in part your clients. Are they appropriate for online services? So instead of me giving a lot of information here, there's not a checklist that we have for, you know, is my client appropriate for online services or not? But you're paying attention. You're staffing that with your supervisor. Those of you in Practicum 1, you're working with a lead therapist who can really help with this to discern if this is an appropriate individual for online counseling or not. Again, step-by-step instructions, where to find the link for your Zoom meeting on that client. It's all right here. We're following the three session structure as best you can. Sometimes it's hard enough to do joining, assessment, screening tools, treatment, diagnosis, and treatment planning in 3 sessions. It can be a little bit even more difficult doing online, but we're still trying to follow that process. Step-by-step guides for you. What does first session, second session, third session look like? Here are the cross-cutting measures. I recommend, in fact, I'll show you how I do it. Again, we're working on getting all of these instruments in a fillable document. If I can get this link to open, we'll try this one. Well, they're not opening. What you want to do is open the document, the screening tool, and have it on your screen, just like I'm sharing this document with you right now. You share your screen and you walk through that document with your client, and you're joining with your client, just like if you're doing the intake paperwork with them. You're asking questions. If they say, yeah, my ability to concentrate is every day it's been impaired, tell me a little bit more about that. So you're not just going through a checklist, you're having a conversation with your client. The fourth document for students, for interns, is just a basic guideline for doing group therapy. And before we start our first group sessions, we'll have some practice opportunities. Then we have a set of documents and guides for the schedulers, and that provides them guidance on how to do their job. Okay, so that's a walk through the prerequisites. You have to set your preferences in your Theranos calendar to be always available. You have to submit the document for the schedulers on your availability. Remember, that's for the entire term. It's not originally, I apologize for the confusion. When I originally set that out, I said for the next week. Then Pat, we were talking in a staff meeting, and she said, I'm going to have to change this every week. And, you know, we kind of backed up. They helped me back up and saying, okay, no, we need to do this for a term. Everybody should be able to commit to availability. And this is just intake availability for the term. Now, when you're scheduling, you're showing your availability, let's say it's Tuesday at 4 o'clock, and you're working with a lead therapist. Don't assume that lead therapist is going to be available anytime that I'm available, because they have lives and obligations in their own practices and commitments too. So if their availability shows that they're available Thursdays at 4, and you're expecting them to be the co-therapist with you, then you need to realize, okay, my 4 o'clock on Tuesday is locked in. That's when I'm going to meet with this client moving forward. And that's when my co-therapist is going to be meeting with me and this client moving forward. Okay, so we have been through all the information I want to share with you today. There's one thing I want to share with you as before we close, and I'm still going to get you out of here ahead of time. Give me a moment to pull this up. And I could share with you many examples of this, but I have permission to share this particular client in an instructional way. And this is a client couple that Scott Hughes and I have been working with. I think this is our 5th session with them. And I'm just going to show you about 5 minutes of this session. And I want you, even those of you who have done online counseling, like Sabrina and John said, and Aaron, and it doesn't feel comfortable. I really prefer that being there in the same room with them. I believe that will change when you get more comfortable doing that. But here's an example of what you are going to see when you record your sessions and what you can experience, that connection with your clients, even though you're working with them through a device. Remember, if you've taken the TAS training in my theory session, I explained that the computer, whatever your device you're using, really needs to be just an extension of who you are. Your personality, your warmth, your friendliness, your sense of humor, none of that goes away. Once you can realize, hey, what I'm projecting, when I'm saying and talking into this little camera with a microphone is being received by people on the other end. And the technology is no longer a barrier for you. It's something you're not even paying attention to it because you're comfortable enough, you've practiced it enough, and you're coming through loud and clear who you really are with your clinical skills to your clients. So I'm going to show you about 5 minutes of this session. Then I'm going to ask you for your thoughts on this. And, but I want you to see what online therapy can look like.
Like going into
I'm going to go up a little bit. Now,
you pulled away and she was pursuing.
This couple, there's been several, they've been together about 7 years. He is been suffered from substance use disorder, been in 3 residential treatments in his life. What brought them into counseling this time was another incidence of infidelity in the marriage, substance use again, lots of emotional injuries. And Nikki and I are both EFT therapists. I'm working from an EFT model here with them. I want you to notice where they are. They're laying in their bed. They're in their bedroom. That's where they go for privacy. She has a 24-year-old daughter who was in a bus accident, suffered from some brain injury. She's kind of stuck at the age of 8. But she knows when mom and dad are in the room that she doesn't just come busting in. So that's where they're meeting as a place for them to have privacy. When you record your Zoom session to your computer, make sure you're recording using Gallery View. If you use presenter view, it's only going to show the picture of who's talking at the moment. So use a gallery view, and that will show you, your co-therapist, and your clients. Trying to think what else. so Scott and I are co-therapists on this. I'm the lead therapist. Scott doesn't know a lot about, he just started practicum. He doesn't know much about EFT, but ask him sometime what he thinks about EFT, because he's fallen in love with it. Any surprise there, Nikki? So, but we're not, if Nikki and I or Mary or whoever you're doing co-therapy with, we work from different models. We're not trying to convince you to jump on board with our model. I can tell you, I came across EFT about 7 or 8 years ago, and I've used lots of different treatment models in working with clients. So, you know, you be you. If Scott were to say, hey, I work from a narrative model. So guess what? When Scott chimes in, when Scott is working as, you know, the co-therapist role, Scott may bring in some narrative tools, some narrative model perspectives. He may ask them to do a letter to each other. If you're a solution-focused therapist, you will be bringing in the model that you use. That's a beautiful thing about co-therapy. You're bringing in more than one voice. And so I want you to listen to Scott's voice. Notice how we're able to, for a moment, maybe talk over each other. But I know as a co-therapist, when I hear my co-therapist's voice, I back away. So just let's watch a few minutes of this, and then we'll process it. Then we'll be done.
Harder, the harder you pull away, the harder she pursued?
Yeah, it seems like when I said we need to use this tool, because I feel it building in my chest, I said, this is the things I need to recognize. I'm getting emotionally into this. I'm afraid I'm going to say something that, you know, I can't take back. I said, let's just drop it for, you know, for the night, because we were kind of going over the same thing again and again and again. And the pursuit, Sally pursued, and then I just said, no more. I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to talk. I'm just not going to talk. And
Okay.
And that it broke her heart. I heard her cry for hours. Out in the like out in the living room, crying, and then she would come back in every now and then and cry, and go back out and cry. But I didn't talk for about 2 hours.
Yeah. So
Was this something different when you, Sally, communicated to him what you needed, that you needed him to hold you? Was that something new, or is that something that you're comfortable doing?
It's new and it was hard.
Well, she didn't even ask.
Yeah, I did.
Oh yeah, you did. You let him say, "I need to be helped." She did. You're right.
And you heard her.
told us that.
And I think that's huge. You know, that you guys were able to communicate on that level and change that cycle that you were in. You know, it's beautiful, really.
But here's where I get stuck, and this is hard. I realized that there are a lot of things he's never going to tell me, and it makes me even more far away from him. So I get along with him all week. We do okay. But inside, I'm just thinking, this isn't going to work out okay. Because
what are you feeling?
Share myself, and he is never going to do it.
What are you feeling right now? I want you to just scan your body, Sal. What are you feeling right now?
I'm all tense.
Tense? What else?
Like rolling up in a ball. As my mom would say, roll it in a hole and pull it in after me.
Yeah. So when you go in that hole and you pull it in after yourself, what are you feeling there in that space?
He can't hurt me anymore.
Can't hurt you. So it's a place of protection?
Yeah.
What else? What else?
It's lonely.
Lonely. You can't hurt me, but I'm awfully alone.
And it feels weird to be going to the person that hurt me to ask him to hold me, but I don't even understand it myself.
Did you find comfort in that?
It was almost like physical comfort. It made me feel better, but it also made me know that I'm never going to know a lot of things. He's always going to have huge secrets, never going to be open. And that's just hard.
Yeah. Can I just push pause here for a moment? Is that okay? I want to kind of take a sidestep, and I want to just encourage you both.
Okay. So I shared that very, 2 or 3 minutes with you, and I want to just ask you on a process level. Do you think what Scott and I are doing with this couple is effective?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you think that they feel disconnected from us?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think the fact that they're sharing, especially Sally, being able to be so verbal there and tell you exactly what she's feeling, reiterates the fact that they feel connected to you all and safe to share.
Yeah. And I could show you clips where he is emotional, where he's crying, where he's, later in this session, he made the statement of, I want to learn not only to connect emotionally and be vulnerable with Sally, but with other people. I've never been connected with anybody. And I said, you've never felt connected to anybody. And he became very emotional. I said, that must be hard to say out loud. And so, I'm not sharing this to show what Scott or I are doing. I'm sharing this with you to let you know that if we will get past the barrier of technology and we help our clients get comfortable and not, get past the barrier of technology on their end, we can do some very effective work. And I understand it doesn't feel comfortable. I was there. There was a time when I would have said, there's no way I'll ever do this. And I'm so glad now that I'm in a place where, I'll work with folks who are suicidal. I'll work any clientele that I have a competency to work with in a face-to-face setting. I have the same competency to work with them in an online setting on. One of the things about online therapy, teletherapy, is it forces you and I, the therapist, to slow down. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We need to slow down. Sue Johnson talks about slicing it thin. And because we have to pause to make sure that person's finished their statement or their thought, it causes us to slow down. We're more intentional. One of the things that Scott and I think I've done it with Aaron, you can correct me, Aaron, but one thing I love about doing co-therapy online is I can do a private chat to my co-therapist. And so Scott, I can let him take much more of the lead. And I used to be, in the old days when we would do reflect teams, we would do live observation. You would have a team behind a mirror and the therapists, or the co-therapists are in the room with the clients, and there's a telephone literally sitting on the stand right next to them. And the person leading the team behind the mirror might call the phone, and the therapist say, hold on just a second, to the client. Yeah. Okay. Well, the team behind the mirror wants to know this and this. So that's how we used to do it. But with doing online co-therapy, I can put in private chat and send Aaron, hey, Aaron, I'm curious about this. Or to Scott, whoever I'm doing co-therapy, I'm curious about this. And then if they want to ask that question, if they want to go there, then they can. So I'm kind of guiding with like an bug in the ear. But I think it's a great learning tool that we have available to us now. Aaron, have I done that with you?
Not to my knowledge. I think with our 2 sessions so far with a couple, that hasn't happened yet.
Okay. And so another thing we can do, we can put into chat, and I have a tendency to do this, things that the clients say, pertinent, comments or positions of discovery. I'll put that into chat and send that out to everybody. So it pops up on the client's computer what they just said. It's a way to reflect without saying it. So I think there's just a lot of really cool opportunities we have in using technology. Okay, well, I promised we'd get out of here early. That took longer than I thought we would, but any last questions or comments? If you want to email me directly or email Nikki directly, feel free to. We're here to help and support in any way we can. But those absolute prerequisites, opening up your TheraNest availability and your calendar preferences and submitting your availability calendar, those have to happen for us to get you scheduled in to see clients.
Do we have a projected start for the group?
As soon as I have enough people to cover all the groups, yeah, that's when we'll start.
Okay, guys, let's go.
Okay. Anybody else?
Tony, I have a question just because I know it happened to me last week and I don't foresee it happening again because I'm going to make sure that I check in on the Friday before with her versus checking everything that morning. But with the problem where she didn't get the email from Zoom, and of course you double checked it and it showed that she did, or that it went out. Okay. If something like that occurs, or for some reason we can't get into Zoom, I'm just trying to figure out if for some reason the account won't open or whatever it looks like, or she can't find her email. I have a DoxyMe account. Is that okay for me to do last minute? Would you rather me try to contact Lauren last minute? Like, what's the route to go on that?
Yeah, if it's session time and for some reason you're not able to access the Zoom room or they're not, make sure DoxyMe will, you have to do this ahead of time. If you want to go ahead and do it now, everybody, feel free to go to DoxyMe, create your free account, download the BAA, have it in your file, and use that. I use DoxyMe as a backup. So, Nikki, do you have foresee a problem with letting everybody use DoxyMe as a backup?
I've not used it. I've actually, I have TheraNest's, I have a TheraNest telehealth. So that's what I use for my backup.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure if it's user friendly, go for it.
And I mean, we for sure ran into a bump there too, because I had to use phone for audio and that was a delay. So, I mean, it was we worked with it and it was okay. But as a backup, it was that or I couldn't see her. So
yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that was still okay.
I've used the
and then you had mentioned something regarding the individual. Sorry, John.
No, I was just going to tell you that I've used the DoxyMe twice. I do not like it as much as Zoom, but it is a usable backup.
The supervision hours, Tony, you had made the statement that as of right now, the individual supervision hours, I guess, are not the over the internet supervision hours are not counting because that's not yet been approved, I think is what I understand you to say.
Unless Dr. Hollis has heard something different from Coactive, I know the standard from Coactive is online supervision is online supervision, and face-to-face supervision is face-to-face, and you have to have one more hour of face-to-face supervision than you do online. We're having to do everything online right now.
Right.
I suspect, just like Coactive has said, we can back down our required number of hours for graduation in 2020, and everybody received that email. I suspect they're going to say any individual supervision that you've been providing during this period will count. We're going to let you count that as face-to-face. They may even let us count all the group supervision as face-to-face, even though we had moved group supervision to online. So that's something yet to be confirmed.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Well, thank y'all. I hope you have a blessed Easter, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Tony.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I said thanks.
Oh, okay. Bye-bye.
Hey, Tony, it's Lauren.
Hey, Lauren.
I do want to show you that fillable document. I'm almost completely done with it. So if you'd like to see it, you can. But obviously, if you'd like to just wait until Tuesday, that's
no. Okay. Let me let you share your screen. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'm almost done with it, and it looks awesome.
Okay. Let me let you share.
Stick around for that.
Yeah. Take all the good news we get, won't we, Nikki?
Yes.
Okay.
Unmute.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, now you can share.
Okay, let me go all the way back up to the top. But this is it. I'm almost completely done with it. It's all of our documents pulled up into one. So it's got the 4 or 5 different sections, all in beautiful paragraphs, got signature lines, date fields, and then this is the part I'm most proud of, I won't lie.
Hushmail. Yes.
I know, Hushmail coming in clutch, but if we want to change anything, we can. I literally just copied it directly from the packet that we already have, but I mean, everything to me looks pretty beautiful. I'm still working on this section, but it's pretty user-friendly. So
yeah.
hopefully
Did you get the, we went over some corrections that I found in the original documents. Did you get those corrections made?
I believe I did, because the main ones that I saw, that there were still some things in some of the documents that said Alabama, and I changed all those to Kentucky. And just a few grammar things here or there is what I mainly saw.
Okay.
But
and you got the time zone in the TAS consent to treat.
That's all the way down at the bottom. Give me just a second.
This is so phenomenal.
I thought it was looking pretty good, but there are some repetitive things in here. Like sometimes it'll ask for the client name, who's filling out the form, and then the client name again. Like I said, I just copied it directly from what the form said, so I don't know if we maybe want to
That's probably because it goes, if it's multiple pages, in case the pages get separated.
Yeah, because like right here in this section, I copied it exactly, and it's just got client name, person who's completing the form, then client name again. So I didn't know if you wanted to change that or leave it how it is. It's up to y'all.
Yeah, no, you can take any redundancy out.
So here's everything that has to do.
I don't know if you found this yet, but if the client doesn't, if the client waits to open the email, because they get they get that through a similar thing that will on sent that they have to click in, and if they wait, it will expire. So like if they wait a week before they open it, if they wait till the day of their session, you know, it's going to expire, and then they're going to say, hey, I can't get the, you know, so that may be something we want to add in up front too, is to let them know, you know, go ahead and open this. Once you've opened it, it's not going to expire, but.
And there is, I thought this was kind of interesting. Up here at the top, it allows you to put like important information right there. You can put like a picture right there, and even just like bio information about us as a clinic. So maybe we could, and obviously I could probably put that in the email that I send, like this will expire. You need to fill it out by this point, or I'll have to do another one.
Well, and in that bio, you may want to put the, what do I need to know about the CUL, the letter to the clients.
Yeah. And we can also attach documents in here. So that's pretty cool too. So they can like print out like separate copies of everything if they were to want it. They can have an individual copy of the consent to treat form. They can have an individual copy of the HIPAA form. They just click on the link and print it right out, right from the page.
That is so awesome. Hey, go back down to the TAS consent. I want to make sure that we have the time zones in there.
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna try not to scroll too fast.
No, it'll be up at the top. I had it up at the very top.
I may not put it in here because if it was in that little graphic thing, I didn't put any of that information in there. Okay. But I can put a time zone in there if you'd like.
Yeah, add the time zone and scroll down. Let's make sure. Relationship, email, client contact.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that is so phenomenal. Thank you so much. What was the other? Oh, go back to I like Alabama requires a code word. We're not in Alabama. I'm going to use that myself with clients. You know, a code word if. You know, the sky's blue today, you know, would be a way to identify sure that the client is the client. But because we're seeing them face to face, I don't think it's really that necessary.
Okay.
And so where do they attach a copy of their government issued ID and something to evidence what their address is, like a utility bill?
So what they'll have to do, from what I understand, I'm still getting to kind of know Hushmail a little bit, but the email that I send them, it'll have this attached, and whenever they reply to it, as far as I understand, they can reply to it as many times as they'd like. Once they fill this out, it'll be automatically sent back to us. Then just in a separate reply, they'll just have to scan or take a picture of their ID and their most recent utility bill.
Beautiful. Okay. All right. That's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful news.
But yeah, I'm just about done with it. I've got a few more things I need to do and just kind of go through and like do some last minute like editing. But hopefully by Tuesday it'll be all done.
Okay. So awesome. when they click on that little squiggly line, click on that. Show me what happens.
We'll see. Since I'm in the editing part,
okay,
I can't tell what it does. And since we haven't signed our HIPAA contract with Hushmail, which that's what I actually sent you a copy of during the meeting, we have to sign that before any of these can like work properly. And I didn't want to sign it myself just because I feel like you should probably be the one to read through it to make sure it doesn't conflict with anything that we have set up.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay.
But yeah, that's about it. I thought it looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
You rock.
Yes, she does. Nikki, I've because been teaching this down here in Alabama yesterday and today. I don't know why you're not able to enter your information into for the CUL, the document track or the hours tracker.
Yeah. Do you understand what I'm trying to say about that?
Yeah, it pulls up, but you're not able to put anything in the field, right?
Right. I can just hover over it, but it won't let me click on it. Nothing happens.
Okay. I will.
Both. browsers, because usually when you run into an issue with a university document, it's because you're not an Explorer, but that didn't help.
Yeah. Well, I'll send it. Are you going to be around for a minute, Lauren?
I'm still going to be working on this for a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Do you mind staying online? I want to send you something that it's our hours trackers, the
Okay.
hours tracker. I want you tell me if you're able to log into it, because I don't want to call our designer. Unless we absolutely have to. Let's see, what am I looking for? There it is. Let me go stop this recording first.
Oh, you're still recording.